I won the lottery a few years ago. Not the jackpot, the next one down. Once I sorted out the fees from winning and had covered myself and my kids, bought a house, paid off debts, set up savings, etc., I gave several friends and family members a tidy sum each. I had been accepted into a top university when I was 18, but hadn't gone as I'd had my oldest, of two, and married his father, so I decided to look into going after I'd won. But ideally, I wanted to pay my own fees, not go through loans, and own a place in the area so I had that security. But this move would come with a much higher cost of living overall, and house prices there were about 4 times what they were in my area, and that's a conservative estimate. Then I found out that Granddad was delaying his retirement due to the cost of living. I ran the numbers, and I couldn't do both, so I split what was left between myself and Granddad, allowing him to retire. I never mentioned this to him explicitly, but he'd known I was looking into uni and then stopped when I split the cash, and he refused to take it initially, and had tried to give it back a few times, to which I said if he tried, I would never speak to him again. Granddad passed away last year, and he left me just about everything. He also wrote a letter, where he brought up my threat of never speaking to him again if he repaid me, so this was his way of repaying me while also getting a laugh at my expense. He also told me to go back to school, which I did. I've been accepted at a top university, arranged the move, and kids and I are settled in our new home, and I have a nice amount of money left, including the tuition fees that I will be paying myself. My younger brother, I have two, older and younger, thinks this is BS. The way he sees it, Granddad heavily favored me for no good reason, stiffing him in the process as he only got a token sum to stop him contesting, same as everyone else, and that he needs the money just as much as I do. He also mentioned that the way Granddad went about it was literally a joke. Never speak to him again, and is using that as proof that Granddad didn't expect me to keep the money, as it was just done for a joke. He's asked me for money, which I've refused as he asked for a really high figure, and is saying I have to help him out. I've explained that this is just Granddad repaying me, which he said was disgusting, as I had given a gift with strings attached to a frail old man, and when I said he misunderstood, and tried to clear it up, he wouldn't hear it. While the family are very careful to not take sides, it's clear they're upset with me, and my brother is really angry. I don't want to lose any of them, but I also can't just give him money like I could when I initially won all those years ago. Is there a way to say that I don't want to talk about this anymore, and I'll see what I can do when I can afford to without angering my brother further and stopping him pushing for this money? You gave up your dreams to help your granddad live a better life in his later years. Your granddad has given you those dreams back. Consider it a return on an investment if you want, but take it and look after yourself the way Granddad wanted you to. Your brother has already had a significant chunk of money from you, so consider the well to be dry now. You have your own children to think of now, and if using your inheritance to get an education improves their standard of life, then that's what you do. They are more important than your brother's entitlement. Your brother needs to understand the difference between need the money and want the money. He's obviously just jealous, and that's not going to change since you won the lottery. And also, receiving an estate isn't about need. It's about the fact that your grandfather thought you deserved it. It's not anyone else's right to say yay or nay to that. It was his wish. The way I see it, if you had never won the lottery, your grandpa would have had to work X more years to retire, and when he died, he would have left Y amount of money to each grandkid. So your brother lost out on Y amount of money so that grandpa could retire early. And now your brother is basically saying he would have preferred grandpa had to work those extra years, just so your brother could collect grandpa's money when he dies. That's pretty ducking morbid. You've been honest with your brother, and he refuses to care. The only thing he cares about is himself. You and your grandpa got lucky. If your brother had won that lottery money, I get the impression nobody would have benefited from it except him. Ha. Mother-in-law is getting married tonight, and my husband and I will not be attending, because the price to do so is just outrageous. I know she thinks we hate her, and that I don't want him to go, but that is pretty far from the truth. She is having a destination wedding in the Caribbean, and it is New Year's Eve, so everything is crazy expensive. We did look at accommodations near where the wedding will be, and it was just insane. I'm 5 months pregnant, and we're saving for the baby right now. I personally feel like holiday weddings and destination weddings are okay if you're willing to accept a large number of guests won't be able to make it. If you can't accept that, don't have one, and she's having both. Anyway, the family has been passive-aggressive. Mother-in-law was encouraged not to give us anything when I have my baby shower if we can't be bothered to go to her wedding, among other jokes clearly painting us in the wrong. Mother-in-law's sister called this morning to yell at us. She said there's still time with these cancellations. She said we were being petty by missing it. I finally lost it and told her that mother-in-law's just a master manipulator. If she truly cared about having her son there, who's young and just getting established in life, she would offer to pay. If she can afford this wedding, she could afford that. I saw my husband's jaw drop, because it is a big thing in his family that you never ever ask for money. So I knew I had embarrassed him. Mother-in-law's sister called me trashy and hung up. My husband said she's going to tell everyone, and they're going to talk crap, because I know how his family feels about anything which could be seen as entitlement with money. He says I took it too far, and not going is enough. Not the a-hole. I stopped at 5 months pregnant. You don't need to spend thousands just to be at her wedding. She chose to have it somewhere far away, and can stream it for free. Not the a-hole. Who the duck expects a young couple, with a baby on the way, to spend a ludicrous amount of money just to attend a wedding? In my opinion, if you not being there bothers them so much, they should all offer to pitch in and pay for you. That's what a good family would do. Not the a-hole. The ones with entitlement towards money are all the people giving you crap for it. They're the ones feeling entitled to you spending your money on something. A destination wedding is a big bill to pay for attendees. Reasonable people who have them don't get upset if everyone can attend, and will also go out of their way to provide the best resources for flights and accommodation. It's really common for a destination wedding to pay the way for some family members too, especially those that may struggle to afford it. Did you explain to mother-in-law that you couldn't go because it was too expensive? Yes, she just said okay. I heard her fiancé making a joke about how are we this broke with all of the opportunities she has given her son, and he implied he thinks we are lying. 28 male. My sister, 45, and I co-own a house together. It was a duplex, but we ripped out the wall in the living room years ago, so now it's one big house. She has 2 girls. My wife and I have 2 boys, and one on the way. It's a giant house. There's still 3 extra bedrooms left over. My sister recently has been pretty much conning my wife into taking her daughters with her everywhere. She does this ever so often, honestly. She takes needing a break to the extreme, and it's always when the warm weather hits, because my sister's really overweight, gets overheated, and can't handle her children during these times. No offense to my sister. So anyways, she's been asking my wife pretty much daily to take the girls with her every single place she goes. My wife ends up feeling cornered, doesn't like confrontation, and just gives in. And what really pissed me off was that this even bled into my children's first ever concert. We got tickets well in advance, and unfortunately, I ended up breaking my hip and couldn't go, so there was a ticket left over. I was destroyed over not being able to go. I was in the hospital, but my wife decided to still bring the boys. And she calls when they got there, and I find out that my sister basically told my wife how unfair it was that there was an extra ticket that her oldest daughter could use, and she didn't even ask to bring her. Needless to say, the kid ended up being taken to the concert, and by the time my wife got to the concert and called me, she was crying and completely overwhelmed and didn't even enjoy herself. My niece has ADHD and is one hell of a handful, so there was no relaxing. I got home 2 days ago and went up one side of my sister and down the other. Told her that she had to take our kids this weekend, so my wife could go and relax after being conned into parenting 2 extra kids for so long and not getting a single stroke of a second to herself. My sister was pissed, saying my wife could have just said no. But my sister never takes no for an answer, so this response was truly manipulative. In turn, I told her I'm selling my portion of the house, which means she would have to sell or convert back to a duplex, which they don't have the money for, because I don't want to be around her BS anymore. She's been begging and crying to us for 2 days, trying to take our kids and kissing our butts, but I have to stick to this because I don't trust her. This home has been in our family for 6 to 8 generations, so my sister doesn't want to sell. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. While I can appreciate people saying that this is an open-ended thread on my end, and that I would be responsible for the cost of converting back to a duplex, please understand that I've already spoken to a few lawyers about this. I thought the same thing. And no, it's not on me financially to do this because of how the co-ownership deed is written. I'm not sure the in-depth legalities, but I did speak on behalf of this issue profusely because I too thought it would be my obligation to rebuild the duplex with my intention to sell. But legally, it is not on me, for whatever reason. Not the a-hole. You are all insane people for taking down that wall in the first place. Not the a-hole. What your sister's been doing to your wife is pretty scummy. I'm honestly surprised that you let it get to the point where you were so fed up, you decided to sell the house though. Either way, she needs to take responsibility for her own children, and not have the ability to corner your wife into doing it for her. Not the a-hole. Families need their space, and these co-living arrangements rarely work out. Even if your sister were to correct her behavior, this isn't doable long term. It's one option for your sister to buy you out with a mortgage, fix the wall and rent out the other side. That way, she would only have half a mortgage, some rental income to offset, wouldn't have to move, and the family duplex could stay in the family. I, 30 female, have a stepsister, Chloe, 32 female, who is married to Joe, 34 male. They have a son, Liam, 4, and my husband and I have a daughter, Ava, 3. Joe, Chloe, Liam, and our parents. Her dad, my mom, came to visit my husband and me at our home abroad last week, as there's lots of events going on here and good weather. We all had a good time, but it was obvious Joe and Chloe were having some issues, both with Liam and each other. Nothing serious, just tension, and a few snide remarks about Liam's behavior and Chloe's appearance from Joe. Over the weekend, we all went out to have lunch and then watch a local event with the intention of attending a party afterwards. It was a long day, with 3 distinct parts to it, so I had clothes to change. I changed before lunch, and when I came down to lunch, Joe said I looked nice. I said thanks, thinking that would be the end of it. But he launched into a whole rant, at the table with everyone there, about how he wished Chloe would make more of an effort with her appearance, how she still had baby weight, never thought about it, how she looked, or how he felt being out with her, and how since I managed to keep myself together while having a husband who was never around, it obviously can be done. It was incensed. This greasy gnome had insulted 3 of the 5 adults in front of our parents and the kids. I told Joe I married a husband and a father, not an extra child, and he provides support, not excuses. If I was a single parent with a 9 to 5 and you to come home to, I wouldn't look like this. That is a reflection of your failures, not Chloe's. Joe grumbled that he was only making a point, but my stepdad said that everyone needed to calm down and we should just get on with our meal, which we did. Joe stayed away from pretty much everyone for the rest of the afternoon, while Chloe sat with us but was sullen and withdrawn. When I tried to talk to her about what happened, she blew up at me, saying I insulted her and Joe's situation with the way I spoke to him. I said I never intended to embarrass her, unlike her husband, and that Joe had insulted me also by turning me into some archaic fantasy. Chloe was still angry and said I had proved his point, and made it worse by making her look like she was married to an idiot, and I should have just brushed it off. I gave up trying to talk to her, and the rest of the trip was awkward between us. My parents say I'm not the a-hole, but my husband says I sort of was. He absolutely supports everything I said, but agrees with Chloe that by defending myself, Chloe became collateral damage. I don't think I'm in the wrong because what Joe said was weird and demeaning, and it did involve me. It's not like I gave some unsolicited or untrue response. That said, some of my friends also think I should have just let it go, since I wasn't the most insulted party. Not the a-hole. You didn't make her look like she married an idiot. She married an idiot. You know this already, but not the a-hole. Your brother-in-law is a huge a-hole. But it sounds like your sister and her husband are having more than some issues if he uses you to hurt her. Maybe your sister needs someone to be there for her. Not the a-hole. I don't understand why Chloe is mad at you, who actually defended her, instead of the man who insulted her and her family. When things settle down, have a chat with Chloe. See what is on her mind and if she needs any help, if you want to help her. My younger sister, 11 female, has a rare medical condition. I won't say the name of the condition because not a lot of people have it. Anyway, she got diagnosed when she was 9, and when I was 16. It didn't really affect me at first. That is until her first surgery. It was understandable that my mom and dad were worried, and were always at the hospital. I was always left at home alone with the responsibility to cook, clean, do responsibility, with no one else there to help. 1 week of this was enough. My sister was discharged and everything went back to normal for 6 months. 6 months later, at 3 a.m., my parents and sister left to go to the hospital and left me this note. Hi, your sister had a relapse. We're at the hospital. You can either walk or get a ride to your volleyball game today. Love, Mom and Dad. I was hurt, because this was the biggest game of the season, and no one was there to watch me, but I understood that health came first. We won the game, and my neighbors felt so bad for me they had me over for dinner. They hate having people over. A few days later, my sister got discharged. 2 months later, she had to be rushed to the ER because of an emergency, and my parents told me they wanted the house cleaned by the time they got home. I obeyed, and they were pleased. Fast forward to now, 2 years later. I got drafted to one of the biggest volleyball teams in my area, and I wanted my family to see me play at the championship game. My mom said no, and that my sister had an appointment that day. She made the appointment yesterday, when she's known about my game for months. She's also been putting off meeting my girlfriend, saying that she needs to be available if my sister needs anything. Today I finally snapped. I said how ever since I was 16, I've been pushed to the side, picked on, and ignored. The least you could do is have dinner with me and my girlfriend, or come see me play volleyball for once. She said I was being an entitled brat, and she told me not to call her until I fix my attitude. I just wanted to feel good about myself for once. But was I being an a-hole here? Not the a-hole. It sucks what your sister is going through. But the fact that your mom made an appointment on the day of your tournament, because, and I'll be honest, she doesn't care about you the same way as your sister. She's basically treated you as a skivvy, because she could. Because to her, nothing is as important as your sister, and that does include you. She neglected you in favor of your sister, who can do nothing about this, so she's also the victim too. Your mom reminds me of the mom in My Sister's Keeper. To her, nothing is more important than her sick child, even pushing out the healthy one, because all eyes are on the sick one. It's what she lives for. I bet when your sister is healthy, pre-relapse, she still gets all the attention. Do anything you can to get out of there, and go low contact. I'm gonna say not the a-hole. It's understandable your mom is worried about your sister, but it does seem like she's neglecting your emotional needs. What you asked for isn't too unreasonable. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry that you were neglected, as it so often happens when one sibling is sick. But it doesn't excuse what your parents did to you. Your mom is blatantly ignoring how you were feeling, and she's an a-hole for that. She will refuse to face her own actions that caused you to feel like this.